Ever wondered what you'd be doing for a living if you were born 900 years ago? Forget your 9-to-5 office job. The 12th century had a job market that was, to put it mildly, bizarre. Today, we're recounting down the top 7 strangest jobs from the 12th century that will make you grateful for your modern career. So, let's kick things off with our number 7, the Gong Farmer. Now, this doesn't sound too bad, right? Farming gong sounds musical? The gong in question was an Old English word for dung or human waste. Gong farmers were responsible for emptying outhouses and cesspits, a job usually done in the dead of night to spare the public from the overwhelming smell. They would shovel the waste into carts and haul it outside the city walls. It was a dirty, smelly, and dangerous job, as the fumes could be toxic. But it paid surprisingly well because, let's be honest, who else would want to do it? It was a necessary evil for urban sanitation back then. Coming in at number 6 is the leech collector. In the 12th century, medical treatments were heavily based on the theory of the 4 humors. Bloodletting was a common practice to balance these humors, and leeches were the preferred tool for the job. But where did doctors get these leeches? These hardy individuals, often women, would wade into marshy ponds and bogs, using their own legs as bait. They'd stand there, letting the leeches attach themselves, then pull them off and pop them into a jar. It was a slimy, painful, and thankless job, with a constant risk of infection from the very creatures they were collecting. Talk about suffering for your work. Next up, at number 5, we have the sin eater. This one is as spooky as it sounds. When someone passed away, a sin eater would be summoned to their home. A piece of bread and a bowl of ale would be placed on the chest of the deceased. The sin eater would then consume the bread and drink the ale, a ritual believed to absorb the sins of the person who had died, allowing their soul to pass peacefully into the afterlife. In return, they received a small payment. But this came at a great social cost. Sin eaters were outcasts, feared and shunned by their communities. People believed they carried the weight of all the sins they had consumed, making them walking vessels of damnation. It was a lonely and grim existence, performed by the most desperate members of society. Let's move on to our number 4 spot, the fuller. This job was crucial for the medieval textile industry. When wool was first woven, it was oily, dirty, and uneven. The fuller's job was to clean and thicken it. How? Well, the process, known as fulling or walking, involved trampling the cloth in a vat of foul-smelling liquid. And what was in this liquid? Water, clay, and human urine. Yes, urine. The ammonia in it was an excellent cleansing agent. Large tubs of stale urine were collected from public sources for this very purpose. Fullers would spend their days stomping around in this mixture, pounding the impurities out of the wool. It was a smelly, physically demanding job, but without them, the fine woolen cloth of the Middle Ages wouldn't have existed. Cracking our top 3, and number 3 is the royal food taster. This might sound like a dream job, getting paid to eat the king's delicious meals, but it came with a terrifying catch. The primary role of the food taster, or pregustator, wasn't to check if the food was seasoned correctly. It was to check if it was poisoned. In an era of political intrigue and assassinations, poisoning was a very real threat to any monarch. The food taster would sample every single dish and drink before it was served to the king or queen. If the taster fell ill or dropped dead, the meal was deemed unsafe. It was a life of luxury and constant fear, where every bite could be your last. You'd live in the palace, but you were essentially a human guinea pig. Now for our runner-up. At number 2, the groom of the stool. This is arguably one of the most intimate and bizarrely prestigious jobs on our list. The groom of the stool was a high-ranking male courtier who assisted the English monarch with his, shall we say, bodily functions. He was responsible for attending to the king in the privy, providing water, towels, and a wash bowl. His main tool was the commode, a portable toilet chair. But the job was so much more than that. Because of the incredible intimacy and trust required, the groom of the stool became one of the king's closest and most powerful confidants. He controlled access to the king in his private moments, making him an incredibly influential figure at court, privy to state secrets and gossip. From humble beginnings, this role evolved into a major political office. Strange, but true. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for. The number one strangest job of the 12th century is the resurrectionist, also known less formally as body snatchers. In the early days of medical science, understanding human anatomy was crucial, but there was a severe shortage of cadavers for dissection because the law only permitted the bodies of executed criminals to be used. This wasn't nearly enough to meet the demand from medical schools and anatomists. So, a new illegal profession was born. Resurrectionists would sneak into graveyards at night, dig up freshly buried corpses, and sell them to doctors. It was a dangerous, illegal, and morally questionable trade. They had to be quick and quiet, often fighting off rival gangs or angry locals. It was a grim business that highlights the desperate lengths people went to for both scientific advancement and a quick profit. So there you have it, 7 of the strangest, dirtiest, and most dangerous jobs from 900 years ago. From collecting leeches with your own legs to eating potentially poisoned food, these professions make today's toughest jobs seem like a walk in the park. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Which job did you find the most bizarre? Thanks so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this trip back in time, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more weird history. See you in the next video.